Good morning, and thank you, Michelle, for the introduction. I think it was you touched on a lot of critical points for our industry. Actually, it is a pleasure for me to be here today in this beautiful city. Actually, it's my second time, and I'm always coming very shortly to Zagreb. So I know I have the compromise to come next time for a longer time to enjoy more the hospitality of our colleagues and friends here. So we are meeting in a momentous year for our industry. 100 years ago, on January 1st, 1914, our industry was born when Tony Janus piloted a Benoist flying boat carrying a single fare-paying passenger between St. Petersburg and Tampa, Florida. Percival Fansler, a local businessman, conceived the idea for the airline, and Thomas Benoist built the aircraft. From their vision, commercial aviation has evolved into a global air transport system that will safely connect some 3.3 billion passengers with nearly 100,000 flights per day across 50,000 routes this year. This activity drives economic growth, creates jobs, and facilitates business opportunities. Aviation annual economic impact is estimated at $2.4 trillion, and it supports 3.4% of global GDP. Aviation makes global mobility possible. Jules Verne imagined a time when it was possible to go around the world in 80 days. Today, you are rarely more than 24 hours from any other part of the globe. So the century mark provides an excellent vantage point from which to take stock of where we are as an industry and what we need to do to meet the expectations of tomorrow's passengers. And we know that a great many of those passengers will be tourists. Mr. Fields' first trip enabled him to do some business in Tampa. But in the century since, the desire for people to travel and explore the world for personal pleasure has been a driving force for aviation expansion. Today, 52% of tourists go by air. Aviation-enabled tourism generates $807 billion of GDP and sustains 35 million jobs. This impact is set to rise substantially over the next 2 decades. Last month, IATA released its 20-year forecast for air passenger growth. Overall passenger numbers, whether traveling for business, education, pleasure, or to visit family and friends, will grow at 4.1% per year. That means that by 2034, we can expect 7.3 billion air travelers a year, more than double what we will transport in 2014. All regions of the globe will experience growth, with even the mature markets of Europe and North America adding a combined 1.2 billion passengers a year by 2034. But the greatest opportunity will be in the emerging markets, particularly Africa and the Middle East. While Middle East will grow 4.9% a year, Asia will contribute to be the global power force, taking its market share to 42% and adding 1.8 billion new passengers annually by 2034. And China will become the single largest air passenger market in the world, overtaking the United States around 2030. Huge countries like India, Brazil, and Indonesia will grow rapidly to displace traditional markets in Europe and Japan. Here's another way to look at it. Since the dawn of commercial aviation 100 years ago, approximately 65 billion passengers' journey has taken place until today. The next 65 billion passengers will be completed in just the next 20 years. What do these incredible growth numbers tell us? Most obviously, accommodating all this demand will be a tremendous challenge for the industry. First, if society is to permit us to grow, we need to be sustainable. Aviation remains ahead of all other global industries in our commitment to achieve carbon neutral growth by 2020 and cut our net carbon emissions by half the 2005 level by 2050. But reaching these targets will require a joint effort from industry and governments, with significant progress on new technology, biofuels, more efficient operations, and better use of infrastructure. And as Michelle mentioned, especially on the air traffic management. It will also need politicians to deliver a single global market-based mechanism for tackling CO2. From international air transport, it is obvious it is an ambitious agenda, but we have already come a long way, and we are determined to meet our targets. Sustainability also means generating adequate returns to attract new investors. Carrying all these extra passengers will require an investment of 35,000 new aircrafts at an estimated cost of $5 trillion that can only be afforded if the industry is profitable. This year, we expect airlines to achieve a collective global net profit of $18 billion. It sounds like a big number, but on revenues of $746 billion, it is a net profit margin of just 2.4%. That is less than $6 per passenger. It is a precarious margin in an industry and the industry remains vulnerable to economic and political shock. And the sustainability of our infrastructure will be put under enormous strain. The reality is that we will simply not be able to build the runways and terminals we will need. In Europe, for example, we face a shortfall in airport capacity equivalent to almost 2 million flights by 2035. We are going to need to find a smarter solution to get the most from our infrastructure. IATA's fast travel program, for example, aims to give 80% of passengers access to self-service options by 2020. That means greater flexibility and choice for travelers, increased efficiencies and lower costs for airlines, and crucially, better use of congested airport facilities. Our global passenger survey consistently tells us that passengers want these kinds of self-service options. Only 15% said they prefer to check in with an agent at the desk. Security, of course, is a constant issue. The only thing we can be certain of is that aviation will always be a target for evil acts. But we're working hard to make security experience better. Last year, IATA and ACI joined forces to develop and promote the Smart Security Program. This program, comprising a coordinating rollout of enhanced processes and technology coupled with risk-based approach, will improve the efficiency, effectiveness, and experience of passenger security. The first pilot projects are already underway at Schiphol and Heathrow. Doha and Melbourne are the next in the pipeline. Early signs are that we can get back to pre-9/11 levels of throughputs while enhancing security and future-proofing the system to cope with the new threats and the extra number of passengers. However, aside from practical issues of tackling our environmental, economic, and process sustainability, the industry needs to consider what the tourists of the future will need and want. As part of our centenary celebration, we have also taken the opportunity to look forward. We asked Lonely Planet's experts to describe some of the key trends that we can expect to see from tourists in the coming decades. Their conclusions were fascinating. We will see air travel become an increasingly integrated aspect of people's everyday lives, but expectations for sustainability will grow. Already, 70% of people expect businesses to be making environmental commitments. Demand for social volunteering and ecotourism vacations will increase. Meanwhile, airports and hotels will become destinations in their own right, not just means by which people explore a new place. Exploiting technology will be utterly second nature to tomorrow's tourists, as Michelle also highlighted. Passengers will expect to be continuously connected and have detailed information at their fingertips. An example of the industry anticipating this trend is the new distribution capability project, which IATA has facilitated with industry partners. NDC is our effort to modernize the 30-year-old distribution platform through the development of an internet data transmission standard, which will ultimately facilitate true online comparison shopping for air travelers. There will be challenges for all of us. We transition from design to widespread implementations. Airlines will need tools to manage and market the products and services they will now be distributed through the agent channel. Agents will need tools to enable them to manage the content they will now receive from airlines. And travel startups need lasting technology standard to build their businesses and bring entirely new solutions to market. Bear in mind that this is occurring against the backdrop of travelers demanding even more connectivity and capability in this multi-touch, multi-device world. They want to be able to tailor their trips and compare prices the same way they customize other consumer purchases, such as laptops or cars. So, although moving to a new way of distributing airline tickets is not easy, it is a change we have to make. As we do this, we are also focusing on how we can work more closely with our travel partners to ensure that travelers are always connected and that travel suppliers are able to share knowledge of any changes or disruptions. Today, the average passenger is always on their mobile and has constant access to the web and the social media. Still, passengers need to search actively for information concerning their journey. Systems do not always talk to each other, and we must overcome a legacy of concerns about sharing information among different travel suppliers that will help us to serve our passengers better. We believe it should be possible to create a single repository for this information. By 2020, we expect the real-time interaction between customers and travel suppliers will be a reality. We call this full realized vision travel communication. It aims to enable multiple industry stakeholders to communicate to the passenger consistently across all touchpoints with information that the passenger knows is up to date and accurate. We cannot do it all ourselves. Aviation was built on collaboration, going all the way back to Fansler, Benoist, and Janus. Every flight requires a choreography of cooperation involving airlines, airports, distribution and travel technology providers, travel sellers, and air navigation service providers, to name a few. Of course, we work together for a purpose, the passenger. I'd like to return to the first airline flight. Abraham Fail bid $400 for the honor of being the first passenger, the equivalent of about $9,500 in today's dollar. That would buy a memorable first-class ticket experience in 2014. But Fail squeezed onto a small wooden bench next to the pilot in an open cockpit, exposed to the elements, including a fair amount of sea spray, since the aircraft flew just a few feet above the water of Tampa Bay. Let's contrast that experience to today. The vast majority of passengers spend only a fraction of what he paid. The average one-way fare in 2014, excluding ancillary, is around $230. And for that amount, the journey is faster and more comfortable. In fact, the requirements of the modern world would have been unimaginable a few decades ago, let alone in 1914. I think, Michelle, you referred to that also as well with your mother experience, right? It is that legacy of innovation and improvement that has enabled aviation and international tourism to grow. And now we are on the verge of a revolution in the passenger experience that will transform people's expectations of what travel can be. All of us are here today because we are dedicated to helping people fulfill their dreams, to explore the world. Aviation is a vital enabler and supporter of that aim. The health of aviation and the health of the tourism sector are inextricably intertwined. I am convinced that by working together, the second 100 years of air transport will be even more successful than the first. Air travel has transformed our wonderful large world into a wonderfully small planet. And in the decades to come, it will continue to play a vital role in generating greater understanding between cultures and people. Aviation and tourism as a powerful force for good. Thank you all.